All right, moving on to the 2013 Evil Dead sequel, remake? I don't know. What do you think? We have another one of these. Is Evil Dead 2 a remake or a sequel? Is this a remake or a sequel? I don't know. This franchise, I don't fucking know. I take it as either the alternate timeline thing I had mentioned in all of my previous videos, or it is a sequel that just takes place much later on. This is the same cabin with all the events at the end, and I feel like this is further, you know, there's further evidence to this presented later. Obviously, the after credits sequence with Ash looking and saying groovy. I mean, that shows that Ash is still around and older, so I feel like that gives credibility to the fact that this just is the same cabin, or at least a cabin in that same area. And these are events that take place later. I don't know. That's how I see it. But then there's a lot of things that are replayed from the first one here. Certain sequences, tree rape and whatnot, to suggest that it's just a remake. But I feel like those are more homages that are set within a sequel that takes place later on. I think that it would be amazing. I don't think this will ever happen, unfortunately, because Bruce Campbell has supposedly retired the Ash character after the cancellation of Ash vs. Evil Dead Season 3. But man, how great would it have been to see a collaboration of this one and Ash, you know, coming together with Mia here. That would be fantastic. All right, so let's talk about this film. Now, what are the highlights of this movie? Cinematography, gorgeous. Some of the best in horror ever. Just a gorgeous film to look at. So that is a huge highlight. Next, what was lacking from Army of Darkness? What's the biggest complaint I have with that film that I have zero complaints with here? Gore. Holy shit, is this movie bloody and gory, on-screen chaos. How a film like this had gotten an R rating to play in a theater is crazy to me. I don't get what the criteria is for R-rated films. Why is this R-rated? And why did they cut certain scenes? I don't get it. It's a political thing. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I'm glad when I watch movies like this, or even like, you know, as I've talked about in the past, the fourth Rambo movie or whatever, they're so fucking violent. They're so over-the-top graphic that I sit there and I'm like, how did this get an R rating? But bug it, I'm glad it did. I can't imagine a normal, everyday moviegoer going to see this and not being absolutely just, I don't know, shocked and maybe even disgusted with the amount of gratuitous violence and gore here. But man, I love it. All right, so we've got this opening, this girl, and she's running, and she gets captured, and she's taken down into the basement of the cabin, and there's dead cats hanging everywhere. There's a mutilated dead cat hanging around, and we find out that the girl's dad has got these people. I don't know how he found them, whatever, but they know what to do. They got to burn the body to release the soul. That's the only way to free his daughter's body. And man, that scene is heartbreaking. That scene is fucking heartbreaking. Just the context of it is this dad has to take his kid, and his kid has murdered his wife, and the kid is sitting there pleading with him and being like, Daddy, no, I love you. No, it's not me. You're wrong. You're mistaken. And the dad has to stick to his convictions because he's went through hell, I'm sure, by this point. And I'm sure it's tried to trick him before. And he's like, I ain't falling for it this time. This is the way to save my daughter's soul. It is heartbreaking. And then he fucking lights her on fire, and as she's burning and laughing and screaming at him, he takes a shotgun and blows her head off, and title credits. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. What's my biggest complaint with this movie? It does come within the first 5 minutes, and it also is laced throughout this film. And it is the biggest downside of this film, and it is the thing that hurts this movie. I still love this film. I still have a blast watching it because of the gore, because of the cinematography, because of the performance by Jane Levy, who I just love. All that stuff is great. So it's enough to elevate the film to a very enjoyable watch. What brings this film down is the deadite dialogue. It is so forced. It is like, it feels like if I took a child, like a 10, 12-year-old child, and I had them try to come up with what they thought is, racy, or like, oh, let's have the deadites say this. That'll be really evil, won't it? It's just very forced. It doesn't feel evil. It feels juvenile. It feels very obvious. It even steals like an Exorcist line, like your mother sucks cocks in hell, which is like my favorite line of all time. And it redoes it in a different way. I want to say it's like, your sister is being raped in hell, I think is the exact line. But it's the way it's delivered. It's the voices. It's not the dialogue so much in that moment, like your sister's being raped in hell. It's a fucked up line, don't get me wrong. But it's the way it's delivered, the way it's presented, the way the voice is, the way the actor looks, all that. It just feels forced. And it takes me out of the movie instantly because I don't feel like these are evil entities that are delivering these lines. It feels silly. And not in that Evil Dead 2 fun, playful silly where I'm like, oh, this is this is jokey, this is silly. It isn't. That's not how this film is presented. This film goes back to the roots of the original and stays traditionally dark. Goes real dark, but man, the deadite dialogue is dreadful. A lot of D's there. All right. I will rip your soul out. We got the Michigan State here shirts, so we're sticking with that. Jane Levy, I've already mentioned. I love the woman. I just think she's wonderful. She's fantastic in this. Her facial performance in this, her eyes. I remember watching the trailer and just being like, who is that? That woman looks terrifying, and she also looks terrified. Like, she played both those roles very, very well. So she has great control over her face and her eyes. She just has the perfect eyes. Her eyes are so fucking big, and she can convey so much different kinds of emotions, whether it be fear or fearfulness, fearlessness, whatever. She has such an amazing way to portray that to the screen. And Fede Alvarez and the cinematographer and all these people capture it so well. And so we got the sister here, Mia, and she tells her brother, like, promise me you'll stay with me till the end. That's a moment in the movie. It's like, no matter what. And as far as the drug thing, I think people don't like it from what I've heard, but I love it. I think that's such a smart way to do this. You have you have now an explanation for why when someone comes back from the woods, like in the first one, and says, the woods attacked me and this happened and that happened, why you wouldn't freak out. Because she's detoxing from heroin. Okay, so she is fucking gonna be twacked out of her mind. She has no idea what the hell's going on. She's gonna be hallucinating. She's gonna be this and that. They have a nurse there. That's a great thing, although it's never actually used. So you actually set up a reason why people could heal up their wound or tape off their wounds, whatever. Tape off, that's what happens in this. But then you just have a guy duct taping everything. How many things does this guy duct tape in this movie? Duct tape fixes everything with this guy. So it's just, they have the nurse there, and I'm thinking, okay, that's smart. So later when they need to patch people up, it'll make sense. You have somebody who's a registered nurse. And it's just never really used. So it's kind of weird because it was there, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And it makes sense why she would be there. She needs to make sure she's, getting the proper treatment so that she can kick this shit and go back to her real life, because she OD'd at one point and died for a little while, and they're really sticking to it. They're not letting her leave. No matter what she says, no matter what stunts she pulls, no matter what, they say, like, she'll go to any lengths. She'll lie, she'll do whatever to get out of here. So when she does these crazy things, it makes sense why they would be like, nope. Because in most movies, you're sitting there like, by this point, they should all want to get the fuck out of there. But because it's mostly happening to Mia, until, of course, later on it gets bad for everyone, They would have a reason not to believe her. So it makes perfect sense. I love that it's in here. They don't seem to be sweating the fact that someone broke into their cabin there. I don't know. They don't really seem to care. Like, the door has been broken open. I don't know. That's odd to me that they don't care. Who did that? The people at the beginning, what connection they have to that, why they decided to do it there, I don't know. And the pics that are in the house, that are up on the walls inside the house, are of them at the current age they are in this movie. I don't get that. The cabin is in total disarray. It is wrecked. It is dirty. It looks awful. And they even say, like, you know, Mom would hate to see it like this. Why are there pictures of you from like a week ago in here? When was the last time you were here? That's weird to me. I don't get that. Shouldn't the pictures up on the walls? I mean, I get we wouldn't know, we wouldn't correlate, we wouldn't connect that those were pictures of them as kids, but we could connect the two dots if we really wanted to. Why the pictures of them up there from like last week? It seems like they would have put them up there, but they're there from when they walk in and look. So it seems like they were there last week. Why did they clean it up when they were there? I don't get that. It seems like the brother and the sister haven't seen each other in a while, right? That doesn't line up for me. So watching it this time, I was like, huh? And I've only seen it once before. So this isn't something I've seen before. I saw it in the theater, and then I watched it last night, and that was it. And we find out the mom died, and that the sister here, Mia, she had to watch the death, and the brother just didn't come, which kind of puts a little bit of distance between them. But they're trying to fix that, but that works in later when they're kind of going at each other and the guilt. But I don't feel like they play into that too much. They could have went more psychological with that and made the brother really feel bad for abandoning her, and maybe that's why she turned to drugs. We kind of have to fill in those blanks for ourselves, but I feel like later when they're deadites and this and that, and they're trying to fuck with them mentally, I feel like they could have really played on that and made him, you know, very distraught from his actions. And yeah, we already talked about all that. They find the book down in the basement, and it is wrapped in barbed wire and plastic, but of course one of them has to read it, because there's always that one asshole who just can't seem to keep away, even though the book inside of it's like, don't read it, don't look at it, whatever, don't read it aloud, don't, you know, it just keeps telling me. It's all written in like crazy. I like that the book is bound in actual flesh. Like, it seems like there was a book and the flesh has been wrapped around and stapled into it, or like whatever. The way the book looks, it's cool. It's a very cool look. It very much looks like skin wrapped around a book, so I dug that. We get a necklace in this one that looks very reminiscent of the necklace that's in the first two movies. Then we get the tree rape, which this time it comes out of a girl's mouth, slinks around, goes up into her vagina, and it's this like slimy snake-like branch. It's really gross. And I don't know if that's up in her later on in the movie. She just still have that in her? I don't know. Because that did actually go into her body, but maybe, I don't know, maybe that isn't real. Who knows? We get when that kid's looking through the book and he's writing down the notes from it, on the page he has a severed hand giving a middle finger. I'm guessing that's in homage to the second movie, but maybe that's kind of a nod that he's reading events that took place in the second movie, so that kind of does connect them as well. Maybe I'm crazy on that, but that's what I saw in his notes. Call me crazy, I don't care. And the brother here thinks Mia killed his dog, which is fucked up to see the dog down there dead. She's in the shower and turns on the hot water so hot that she boils the skin off of her face. Yet again, when she comes back at the end of this movie from deadite, has no farce. She has no split tongue. She has no burns on her face. She has none of that stuff. So I guess whatever damage you sustain while a deadite isn't actually there when you come back, which is just doesn't make any sense to me. Her body, she should be that fucked up. Anything that happens to her physical body while a deadite, when she comes back, her body should be damaged. I don't know. I don't like that. They rush across. They find the bridge has been washed away, and Mia's laughing, spinning there because, you know, by that time she's turned. I like that look. I like the water. Look at all the, as I said, the visuals in this film are incredible. And then the shotgun blast, the silence. When Mia's in there and they shoot the shotgun, they have the silence. Then the rush of the camera through the door, and Mia's in there screaming. That whole sequence, the way it's shot, the sound design, all that, incredible stuff. I love it so much. And then she vomits on this person's face, and they just throw her in the cellar. Another violent throw into the cellar, the way she disappears when she's thrown in there. As I said, visually this film is stunning. I can't say enough good about it. We get a lot of stuff in the book that kind of prophesizes what's going to happen. I don't really care for that too much, and I don't really like that the friend has to kind of keep saying it out loud. It reminds me of in the second movie when freaking Annie is like out loud talking about like what she has to do in the passages and this and that, and like the first recitation does this and the second recitation, it's like, fucking get to it. Ash has to be like, well then get to it, bitch, stop telling me about it. And that's how it feels. It's just like, I don't need it. I don't need that kind of shameless exposition thrown at me. Like, I get it. Like, I can see what pages are in the book, and I can put 2 and 2 together. Don't treat me like I'm a fucking idiot. And the cut face when she openly comes into the shower and she's sitting there and she has her face cut open and she turns around and she talks and her whole face is slit open there. And awesome. And then he slips and he falls. His back hits the toilet, near breaks his damn back, and then she comes down and she stabs him with a hypodermic needle, and it freaking hits off of his glasses over and over. But then he takes the needle and it's stuck right below his eye, and he pulls it like this, and the skin is attached. Oh, it's just gnarly. And she falls, and he grabs the back of the toilet saw style, and he beats her to death with it and smashes her head in. And then everyone runs in on him, and he has to take his word that she tried to kill him. And it's like, well, that's one hell of a response. But everyone's already pretty much, I guess, sold at this point. Oh man, she licks that blade and it splits her tongue. That's so gnarly. And the book in this movie does not burn. They throw it in the fire or whatever, does not burn like the first one. So that's completely disregard for what has been set up, which is fine. I'm not dissing on that, but it is a complete, difference there. We get a corrupt hand, which has to be cut off. So more credence that it's a kind of a remake of the first 2 movies in one, except for tonality. Obviously this one's much more like the first one, although this is the most serious one of the bunch by far. This is even more serious than the first one. And she has to cut it off with an electric knife from here, the skin, the gore, and then she stands up and it like rips off from itself. Awesome. Just holy shit, is the gore so realistic. The skin, the meat, it looks real. It looks like someone took a freaking carving knife to their arm. It's wild. It's wild stuff. And then we get the nail gun. The nail gun does some serious damage in this movie. Then that guy gets this hand split. He puts his hand, this freaking dude with the glasses who sets the curse off. He deserves it. Gets it right here. Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Split hand. Looks at it. I love that. Oh, so good. That one is, it's amazing. And then yeah, she goes to put up her hand after that, and he blows her arm off with the shotgun, rips her arm from her body. There's the gore you should have saw in Army of Darkness when he was shooting the witch, when he shoots the freaking kettle or whatever off the top of her head. It should have ripped her hands off. And then when he shot her again, it should have blown one of her arms off, like you see in this movie. Now this is gore. Put this gore in Army of Darkness, then we'd be talking. Holy shit, would that be amazing. And then he goes out and he buries his sister alive with freaking plastic wrap over her face and everything. I think that was in order to keep the dirt and everything out of her lungs, so that he could resuscitate her after, but it looks so evil in the moment, but I love it. And then he brings her out, and he has this gadget that he's brought, and he sticks it into her, and he zaps her, and she comes back to life. And I guess once you're dead, the deadite leaves your body, so he kind of tricks it and gets around it. But then he dies, and by that point, it's already claimed 5 souls, even though 1 is back, but she's soulless now. I don't know how that all works. And then it just starts to literally rain blood. This movie rains blood. Awesome. And then that whole fight sequence where the car falls on her, the thing digs its way out of the ground. She has to rip her own arm off. She doesn't cut it off or anything. It's just broken, and she just pulls until her arm completely, like the skin pulls away. It kind of reminds me of like Gerald's game when she's cutting her hand off and the skin pulls away. Ugh, it's so gnarly. It's so awesome. And then her arm rips away, so we got some ash there. She loses her hand, even though we have another girl in this movie losing her hand, but it's the final hero. So we got the 2-hand rips off here, and then she grabs the chainsaw, she revs it up, and she sticks it into, it's one of my favorite gore sequences ever. It's raining blood. This one arm stump freaking goes through the chainsaw. She grabs the other part of the chainsaw, and she like brings the chainsaw down into this thing's body, and the blood that spews from this thing and the way the body's moving as she moves the chainsaw kind of reminds me of the chainsaw kill on the headless body in part 2, but way more wicked and just amazing. That sequence as she's yelling and screaming and blood is spraying everywhere. How the hell can you not love that movie? And also the machete, I forgot about that one. The machete comes through the wall, hits her leg, and then it pulls back, and it's like really slow, and you can see the skin being pulled and splitting, and she's screaming as it's slowly being pulled through her leg. Awesome stuff. And then yeah, the thing just kind of disintegrates into the ground, and she's left there, and you know, that's that. And the credits are all Necronomicon pages as they come down. I thought that was really cool. The whole credits are like that. And then we get the after credits Ash groovy sequence. I think that was his seal of approval, that the movie was a groovy. I agree. It's fucking awesome. As I said, I wish that the Deadite dialogue and stuff, and maybe some of the story was tightened up a little bit. I don't love the characters. That's another problem. I mean, I don't really love the characters in the first movie, and I love that movie, so I don't see the big difference there. But this doesn't have an Ash. It has a Jane Levy, and she gives a fantastic performance, but her character isn't anywhere as memorable as like an Ash in Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness by any means. So this movie is definitely missing an Ash, but what it lacks in those things, it really does make up for in gore and just gorgeous looking cinematography. So this is a big thumbs up for me, despite my minor quibbles with it. But what do you guys think of this series as a whole? How do you rank them? Thank you to Rebecca for joining at this tier level. I will get to the Ash versus Evil Dead series. I will start to knock that out one by one. I'll do the episodes on here. I'm not going to do it right this second, but I do want to do it. I will get to it soon, I promise. Just getting a lot of things out of the way. But thank you to Rebecca for joining on my Patreon at the tier level to request an entire series for me to review. So if you have a series you want me to request, you can check out my Patreon, and if you want, and I will link it down below to check it out. Other than that, guys, adios.